and I'm still playing Spock. We just made Star Trek V just before I left the States. Another one, yeah, another one. In 1956, a desperate actor picked up JFK in his taxicab for $125. That same man would later become Spock and earned millions. But fame came with a price Leonard Nimoy never expected. The character took over his life completely. Thank heaven. Mr. Scott, there was no deity involved. It was my cross-circuiting to be that recovered them. He couldn't turn it off. His marriage crumbled. His son stopped speaking to him for 5 years. The drinking got worse. Then he made a choice that surprised Hollywood. The truth about what really happened will change how you see Star Trek forever. Leonard Simon Nimoy was born on March 26, 1931, in Boston's West End, a tight, noisy place packed with Irish families and recent immigrants. But inside his family's apartment, the language wasn't English. It was Yiddish. His parents, Max and Dora, had escaped from Islam of Ukraine, not as travelers, but as survivors. Max had crossed the Polish border, on foot, in the dark, hoping not to be shot. Dora and Leonard's grandmother had been hidden under hay in a horse-drawn wagon. Smuggled out of the Soviet Union, they arrived separately, reunited in Boston in 1923, and tried to build something steady. They kept kosher, held fast to their Orthodox roots, and squeezed 3 generations into a cramped tenement. Leonard grew up sharing the apartment with his grandparents, his older brother Melvin, who was born in 1926, and his parents. They didn't have much, but they had rules, rituals, and the weight of memory on their backs. Max became a barber and worked 6 days a week in Mattapan, cutting hair beside Leonard's grandfather to feed the household. Saturdays were always busy at the shop, but they adjusted their observance to keep the business going. Dora was razor sharp with money. When Leonard needed portrait clothes, she didn't buy anything. She made them from scraps. White shirt, fancy collar, pants, all stitched by hand. By 10, Leonard was selling newspapers on Boston Common. It didn't stop there. He shined shoes, set up chairs in theaters, sold greeting cards. Later, he filled vending machines, scooped ice cream, ushered in movie theaters. Max even worked a second job making leather luggage patterns. They survived because everybody worked. But Leonard wanted something else. Melvin was the golden child, the steady one, headed straight for MIT and a future as a chemical engineer. He spent hours in the science lab at the Elizabeth Peabody House. That same building had a theater downstairs. That's where Leonard went. At 8, he performed in Hansel and Gretel in a 375-seat room that smelled of sawdust and glue. He stayed in that theater wing every chance he got, mimicking radio voices, putting on shows. But Max wasn't impressed. He told Leonard flatly, "I didn't walk here from Russia so you could be an actor." He didn't want artists in the family. He wanted survival. He told Leonard to learn the accordion so he could always make money, no matter where life took them. But Leonard wasn't listening anymore. At 17, Leonard played Ralphie in Awake and Sing, a play about a poor Jewish family in the Bronx. The story felt like his own. Same tensions, same tiny kitchen, same kinds of arguments. That role lit something in him that wouldn't go out. He didn't want anything else. He had already been singing in synagogue choirs since he was 11. And when he did his bar mitzvah at 13, it was so beautiful that a rabbi from another synagogue asked him to do it again the next week for their congregation. William Shatner would later say, Leonard was the only man whose voice was to bar mitzvah good. Leonard's grandfather quietly supported his dream. While his parents kept pressuring him toward safety, his grandfather whispered encouragement. Leonard started saving. He went door to door selling vacuum cleaners around Washington and Boylston Street. Eventually, he saved $600. That was enough. He left Boston College and bought a coach seat on a train. 3 days, 3 nights, straight to California. He used the money to enroll at the Pasadena Playhouse, paying $400 for the first year. But after 6 months, he quit. He said he was already doing better work than the students around him. He got a $47 refund, walked out, and started knocking on agent doors. Within a year, he was filming his first movie. He didn't stop working. He drove taxis. He worked as a theater usher. He kept vending machines filled. He also acted in Yiddish theater, performing with legends like Maurice Schwartz and Kame Taber. It wasn't just work, it was home. In 1971, when he played Tevi in Fiddler on the Roof, he called it a homecoming. His parents were from a Russian town just like the one in the play. Back in Boston, he'd taken part in a summer theater program at Boston College. It was run by a Jesuit priest, Father John Bond. The students would rehearse, perform, build sets, and sleep on stage. Leonard was the only Jewish kid in the program, but he felt completely at peace. That's when he started getting interested in method acting, reading Stanislavski, and idolizing Marlon Brando. He started wearing jeans and t-shirts and digging into the emotional lives of his characters like it was real life. On December 3, 1953, Leonard enlisted in the U.S. Army Reserve at Fort McPherson, Georgia. He was 22 and needed income so he could marry his fiancée, Sandra Zober. They got married in 1954 while he was still in uniform. The Korean War had just ended, but the draft was still active. Acting wasn't paying, His last movie, Kid Monk Baroni, had flopped. He was delivering newspapers to get by. The Army paid $75 a month and gave him housing. By the time he was discharged on November 23, 1955, he'd reached Staff Sergeant E6, a huge leap in just 18 months. He wasn't just a soldier. He joined the Army's Special Services, the entertainment branch. He wrote, narrated, and hosted variety shows for other soldiers. He also wrote skits that poked fun at Army bureaucracy and regulations. The soldiers loved it. These shows helped keep them sane. Leonard learned how to read a crowd, adjust his tone, and hold their attention. Skills that would become gold later in Hollywood. At Fort Benning and Fort McPherson, he did something wild. By day, he trained soldiers. By night, he joined the Atlanta Theater Guild and directed A Streetcar Named Desire, starring as Stanley Kowalski. It was one of the most emotionally brutal roles in theater. Leonard played it while still reporting for 6 a.m. drills. He mentored young recruits like Private Ken Berry, who later starred in sitcoms. The discipline Leonard learned from juggling both worlds would shape how he worked for the rest of his life. On a 1954 recruiting tour across Southern colleges, Leonard ran into hate. He performed solo shows that included integrated casts, black and white characters together. Some crowds hurled slurs and objects at him. It didn't stop him. He kept doing it, kept pushing. Those moments stayed with him. They sharpened his view of justice. Years later, through the Susan and Leonard Nimoy Foundation, he'd put real money behind equality efforts. But the pain started on those college stages where some people didn't want to see equality acted out at all. When he left the Army in November 1955, he got on a bus back to Los Angeles. He had his discharge papers, his service number ER1122997705, and no money. Sandra was pregnant with their second child. He had to hustle. Within 72 hours of becoming a civilian, he was auditioning again. To survive, he drove taxis. In 1956, he once picked up Senator John F. Kennedy, who didn't have any cash, and made Leonard follow him into the Beverly Hilton to get paid. He left him a $1.75 tip, but Leonard never forgot what the Army taught him: how to hold a room, how to switch tones, how to deliver something people didn't know they needed. 11 years later, in 1966, he became Spock. But that version of him was built long before the pointy ears. It was shaped in the tenements of Boston, the community theater basement, the Army bases, the back of taxis, and the quiet battles against fear and expectation. Everything started long before Star Trek. Everything started when Leonard decided he wasn't going to be anybody else's version of safe. In 1955, Leonard Nimoy came back from the Army with nothing but dreams and a hungry family. He was a staff sergeant when he left, but in Los Angeles, rank meant nothing. He had a wife to care for, Sandra Zober, and soon 2 kids, Julie, born March 21, 1955, and Adam, born August 9, 1956. There was no money, no job, and no certainty. Just long days chasing auditions and even longer nights working anything he could find. He became a taxi driver, a newspaper boy, a vending machine repairman, a pet shop helper, a fish tank installer, and a freezer salesman knocking on doors. And when all of that didn't cover rent, he'd shine shoes or sell greeting cards like he did when he was 6 years old in Boston's West End, learning survival in cold streets long before he ever wore a Starfleet uniform. On August 13, 1956, when Leonard was 24, he got a cab call to the Bear Hotel to pick up someone named Mr. Kennedy. When the tall man got in, Leonard said, "How are things up in Massachusetts, Senator?" John F. Kennedy smiled and started asking him questions about Boston, about his immigrant parents, about why he came to California. They talked politics, Adlai Stevenson's chances, family. When they reached the Beverly Hilton, Kennedy said he had no cash. So Leonard followed him into the lobby to collect the $1.25 fare. Kennedy handed him 2 crisp bills, one for the fare and a $1.75 tip. Leonard never forgot that moment, not because of the money, but because someone had seen him, not just as a driver, but as a person. But kindness didn't pay rent. By 1957, things hit rock bottom. The family was squeezed into a shabby apartment. Jobs weren't coming. Food was short. Leonard was sleeping 4 hours a night and still barely surviving. He landed scraps, tiny roles in shows like Perry Mason and Dragnet, and low-budget sci-fi like Zombies of the Stratosphere, where he wore a suffocating rubber alien suit in the Mojave Desert under 100 heat, losing 15 pounds in 6 weeks while earning just $150 a week. Ice buckets were kept nearby in case actors passed out. There were no stunt doubles. There was no relief. That same year, he managed to land a lead role in Kid Monk Baroni, playing a street kid turned boxer. He believed this would change everything. He invested $500 of his own money for headshots and promo materials trying to get noticed. But the movie flopped hard, barely pulling in $100,000. Leonard couldn't recover the cost. He was $500 in debt, around $5,800 in today's money, and had to return to cab driving and teaching acting classes at $5 a student just to keep the lights the crew waits. The lights burn overhead. Ron stands in the center of the set, hands shaking. The pressure of directing, acting, and managing a collapsing personal life is eating him alive. Ron, we're ready for you. Ron tries to speak, but the words stick in his throat. He wipes sweat from his forehead, the room spinning. I knew something was wrong, but I kept telling myself, just push through it. Everyone's counting on you. He steps toward the monitor, and his vision narrows. A loud ringing fills his ears. The crew rushes toward him as he hits the ground. Ron wakes up to the soft beep of machines. His wife sits at his bedside, eyes red from crying. You're not invincible, Ron. Something has to change. You can't keep living like this. Ron tries to argue, but he can't. He knows she's right. The doctor said it was exhaustion, stress. But the truth was, I'd been ignoring my life while chasing my career. He looks over and sees the unopened envelope on the table, his brother's name written across the front. Flashback, a weak EARLER, his younger brother, trembling, voice cracking. Rothery think I'm in trouble. I don't know how to stop. I need help. Ron had been too busy, too overwhelmed. He told him, let me finish this project. I'll call you in a few days. Now, in the hospital, the guilt crushes him. Back to PRS Centurion reaches for the envelope with shaking hands. Inside is a note his brother thanking him for being the one person he could trust. I almost lost him, and I almost lost myself. He exhales, shakes, the weight of everything hitting him at once. Int. Director's chair. Interview present. Diariran looks straight into the camera. The truth pouring out. Ron HOWRD people talk about success like it's a ladder. But for me, it became a tunnel, and I kept running forward, afraid to look back at who I was leaving behind. He takes a long pause. That day in 1991, that's when I realized the smile wasn't real anymore, and I had to rebuild everything from the ground up, my health, my family, my purpose. Int. Ron Howard's home, 1991 DAWN. The first light of morning slips through the windows. Ron sits alone at the kitchen table, staring at a cup of coffee gone cold. He looks exhausted, but determined. He reaches for the phone. Ron Howard whispers, come on, pick up. After a few rings, brother, VO, hello. Ron closes his eyes in relief. Ron Howardy, I'm here now. Whatever you need, I'm with you. Silence, then a shaky breath on the other end. Brother VO, I thought you were too busy. Ron's voice cracks. Ron Howardy was, and I was wrong. He swallows hard. Ron Howardy, I'm coming over. We'll get through this. Together. Montage, the rebuild. Ron driving through empty, early morning streets. His brother opening the door, eyes tired but hopeful. Support group meetings, chairs in a circle, soft lamplight. Ron sitting beside his brother, hand on his shoulder. Therapy sessions where Ron finally admits the words he'd buried. I'm not okay either. Scenes of Ron stepping back from projects, handing responsibilities to assistant directors, learning for the first time to rest. Family dinners where he actually sits, listens, laughs. A shot of Ron looking in the mirror one night. Not the director, not the Hollywood figure. Just a man, trying again. Ron Howard VO rebuilding wasn't glamorous. It wasn't inspiring. It was slow, messy, humbling, and everyday. I wondered if I'd waited too long. Int. Film set, 1993, AFT RNO and returns to a set for the first time in months. The crew pauses when he walks in. Everyone watches. He breathes in deeply. And then to ND assistant director, smiling welcome back. Ron nods. Grateful. Ron HOWARD, let's make something great, but let's do it without losing ourselves this time. The once skeptical faces soften. A new energy fills the room. This time, he's different. Int. Director's chair present. Diariran leans forward, eyes steady. Ron HOWRD. People think the hardest part of success is getting there. It's not. The hardest part is surviving it, keeping your soul intact, keeping your family close, keeping you close. He exhales. Ron HOWRDN. I almost DIDN. Single quotes T.int. Empty studio. ENIGHT. The lights are off. The cameras are covered. Ron stands alone on the set, the same type of stage where he once collapsed. He looks around quietly, running his fingers across the cold metal of a light stand. Ron Howard. VO. There was one moment I've never talked about. Not in interviews. Not in books. Not even with my family. He slowly takes a seat in a director's chair, but it's not the one with his name on it. It's a plain one, old worn, someone else's, ANGLE, on the fading label on the back. Dad. Ron's breath catches. Ron Howard VO. After the hospital. After helping my brother, I came back to this room late one night, and I found this chair tucked behind a stack of props. I hadn't seen it in years. He runs his hand across the name again. Dad. Flashback, brief MOMA, his father on set with him decades earlier, teaching him how to frame a shot, how to listen, how to care. Back to PREC and Tyrion's voice cracks. Ron HOWRD, he always told me, success means nothing if you lose yourself getting there. He looks up, eyes glistening. Ron HOWRD, and The truth is, I didn't just almost lose myself. I lost him too. A long pause, the kind that hurts to sit in. Ron Howard, he passed while I was in production, and I never got to say goodbye. Never got to tell him he was right. He wipes his eyes. He doesn't hide it. Ron H. That's the part of the story I kept out. The missing 10 minutes. The real cost of chasing perfection, that studio stays silent. Just Ron, breathing. Ron Howard softly. So now, every film I make, I put that chair somewhere on set. A reminder, not of what I achieved, but of what I almost lost. He stands, steps back, and leaves the chair in the center of the dark studio. One light flickers on above it, like a spotlight. Ext. Backlot SUNRIS. The sky is just beginning to change color. Orange bleeds into purple. Ron walks across the quiet lot alone. Jacket over his shoulder, no cameras. No crew. Just him, as he walks. We hear his voice. Ron Howard, VO. People ask me all the time, what's the secret to your success? They expect a story about Hollywood, but it's not a Hollywood story, it's a human one. He reaches a small side door, one most people never use. He unlocks it with an old, worn key. Int. Storage room, IONT, motes float in the air. Old film, canisters, props from movies nobody remembers. A lifetime of work, tucked away in boxers. He pulls out a single item, a framed photograph of him and his dad on the set of his very first project, both of them smiling. Both of them so young. Ron stares at it, breathing slowly. Ron Howard, quietly, to himself, I thought I had to choose between the work and the people I loved. I didn't know I could honor both. He places the photo beside the old chair, labeled Dad. Two pieces of his past standing together. He touches the chair one last time. Cut to interview, ROOM, present, Dea. Producer behind the camera asks a question we don't hear. Ron listens. Then he nods. He leans forward, not rehearsed, not polished, not performing. Just real. Ron Howard. You take anything from my story. Take this. Don't wait for a collapse to realize who matters. Don't wait for the applause to fade to hear your own heartbeat, and don't wait for loss to understand love. A beat of silence. Producer OS. Do you think you're still rebuilding? Ron looks up. Smiles. Not the Hollywood smile. A human one. Ron Howards. Every day. But now, I'm building the right things. Ext studio lot. LATR. On steps outside. The sun is fully up now. Bright and warm. He pulls out his phone, takes a breath, and hits call. A voice answers. VO. Hey Ron. Good morning. He smiles. Ron Howard. Just wanted to check in. I was thinking about you. The camera pulls back wider, until he's just a small figure walking through a massive studio lot. Only this time, he isn't walking alone.